Hello and welcome to Gifted Underachievers, the podcast for mid-level creatives with delusional ambitions. In this segment, James and I talk about our respective planned creative retreats, both of which come with risks, deadlines, pressures, and of course, rewards. Hope you enjoy.
Hey, Pat.
Yes, James.
So, I have a big question here.
Okay.
It's in light of our previous conversation where we're learning the difference between Sicily and Spain.
You calling me a dumbass?
No, of course not. No, but the question is, what do you need for support to actually have a regenerative creative retreat? Right? And so, just to bring people up to speed so they know what we're talking about, next March 2026, you have set aside what, the whole month?
The whole month.
The whole month to go to, and we're going to root this out so that nobody calls you or comes and finds you. But it's in Spain.
Yeah.
And you're going to be a month in Spain, but this is not vacation.
No.
So why don't you give a little background here?
Okay. Well, I kind of realized with all the stuff that's been going on the last 4 or 5 years, business, my mom's very elderly and needs a lot of support, divorce, moving, all this stuff. I just really haven't had a break. And I don't mean a holiday. I was on holiday actually in 2022. And again in 2023 for a week, and again in 2024 for 2.5 weeks. So I've been taking holidays actually, but I haven't had a chance to work on this project that's dear to my heart. I just started it last year, but I've always had a project on the go, and I just haven't really given them much bandwidth lately. And so I thought I should apply for retreats. And then I'm in this, we're doing this grant experiment, and I'm like, oh, I don't have time. I don't have time to apply. And I don't want to go to the US. Sorry, no offense, but it's dangerous down there for
Yep.
people who,
Crazy
yeah,
town.
it's a little weird. So then I thought, well, fuck it, instead of leaving it up to chance, instead of filling in these very onerous applications and then just hoping that my project gets picked, what if I just book my own? What if I just book a place where nobody knows me and I don't know anybody, and I can go take my project over there? And the reason it's next year is because, well, there's a bunch of reasons, but one of them is because I want to take a revision there. I don't want to take generative work there. I want to take a complete draft there
Ooh.
and
You
find the
know,
next draft inside
yeah.
it. So for that, I need stretches of time. It's not going to be enough for me to use the ass end of each day, or 15 minutes on my lunch break to churn out 500 words or whatever. It just doesn't work that way for me when I'm trying to keep a whole novel in my head. So I started going on. I decided, you know what? I'm going to just make my own, a DIY regenerative retreat. I think of it as basically a writing residency, but nobody else is there. And you know, so pros and cons, but
Yeah,
anyway,
no teachers, facilitators, all that kind of stuff.
yeah, nobody's putting a gun to my head, but I'm actually pretty self-directed in terms of when I have time to write, I'll happily sit down and write. I like it, I enjoy doing it. So I also thought that it would put a fire under my ass to get the first draft written, because if you don't have a first draft, you can't take that draft somewhere in March to work on.
Yeah, I've sorry to interrupt, but I got a
No,
question.
no.
And so, you've found a place to go. This whole thing is I would put it in the zone of relatively affordable, right?
Yes,
You're
absolutely.
not
Yeah.
going like first class. This isn't hotels and
Hell's no. I'm in a VRBO. It's tiny, teeny, tiny, and that way I can't invite anybody, which is great.
Mhm.
Um, because I would be tempted. I'm that type of person. I'd be like, you know what? You need a break too. Why don't you come? Why don't you just
Right.
fly out? You can stay at the place I'm renting. And then
Your
it turns
inherent
into a social thing.
generosity would screw the pooch,
Yeah,
right?
I think it might dilute my
Yeah.
experience.
Next thing, you've got a bunch of young British drunkards, sleeping on your couch.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, because it's Spain. Yeah,
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 all kinds of craziness.
yeah,
But no, so I mean, the point being is this is not a lavish thing. Even going to Spain sounds a little lavish for,
yeah.
North kind of thing, but it's not. It's maybe a little bit longer flight than somewhere closer, but that's about what it is.
It's four
Um,
figures. I mean, for flight accommodation, food, everything. I
yeah,
don't expect to get into. Well, I
yeah.
definitely. I mean, it's low four figures. You know.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Nothing, no, not a big splurge, right?
yeah,
Relatively affordable, but to get prepared for this, you're going to need to find the time to get that draft done. So you're still kind of on the hook.
yeah. I
Uh,
lit a fuse basically when I booked that place. So I looked on VRBO. I found a place. I was looking all over. I did. I blithely told you I had booked a place in Palermo, Spain. And then we realized
well,
jointly
we both had to look up. So
that I wasn't anywhere. Palermo's in Sicily, okay? So anyway, relief that I wasn't actually going to Sicily because I feel like it would be more expensive to get to. But yeah, yeah, I didn't. I lit the long fuse because now that fuse explodes when I get there in March 1st. And if I don't have a fucking draft of a novel in my hand when I get there, I'm going to be in trouble. I'm going to have to write it there. And it's set here. So preferably I would write the first draft here. You know, and plus I want to have feedback on it too, which means I've got to have it ready probably by, you want to give people 6 weeks to read even a short novel. And
mhm,
even that's kind of pushing it, but a bunch of people owe me favors. So on the reading end, I've swapped
mhm.
manuscripts where I've never sent them anything. So I've got enough people that I can ask that I'll probably get at least two people's feedback, and then I can take it. And so the whole point of writing the long fuse and having some kind of urgency really attached to the March 1st thing is that I know myself well enough to know that I do operate best under pressure. That's why I like the 3-day novel contest. I operate best under a little bit of pressure.
Right. Yeah, well, and you like to really challenge yourself in multiple ways. I mean, you know, writing a novel, 3 days, huge effort, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I think, the other piece of this needing to have a draft. So again, we're being a little writer centric, but you can't just finish it the day before you leave and expect to have meaningful work
No.
over that month. You've got to let that thing cool down,
Yeah, exactly.
right?
Yeah.
And so so now you have to figure out like, okay, when am I going to block out this writing time?
Yeah.
How am I going to, manage all the things that you have? Because as you said, you have this very full plate already. So,
Mm.
but I think this is really cool that you're being very intentional about it. You understand yourself well enough to know that, hey, if I put myself under pressure, I'm going to respond, or I'm more
Yeah.
likely to respond to that
Yeah.
in a way. So, no, I think it's good, and you found a way to do it that gets you away, puts you in a very different environment,
Yeah.
which is going to be fun anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it could be stressful. I don't speak Spanish, but the thing, and I want to ask you about yours in a sec, but the thing that I feel that the support then that somebody needs to do something like what I'm doing is number one, you need to support yourself. You need to
Right.
believe that you're worth it, because if you had asked me 5 years ago if I would spend money on taking myself to a different country to work on a book for a month, I would have said, no, I can't right now. There's too many uncertainties in my life, but things have settled down a little, so now I can, and I was scared, so that means it's a good thing. I have to do it.
Mm,
Anytime I'm scared of something, I have to do it. Um,
wow.
I'm not talking about running the bulls. I'm not actually scared because I know I'm never going to do that. But it's like anything that there's a potential for me to do that I think would be really cool, but I'm a little terrified. It's the next thing I have to do. So that's
Yeah.
just my nature. And the support I need, obviously, I guess, is if my mom is still around, then I would need to ask my siblings to sort of take some of my shifts with her, and I would need to have writers agree to read my work so that when I go there, I have not just had 6 weeks off from a draft, but I've also got some objective feedback on how that draft felt to somebody who isn't me. And I think I would also, money, obviously, I support myself. So I have to be able to get enough work going, which means I need support from clients and, the school I teach at and all of those different avenues to be able to put that cash aside and
Yeah.
make sure that I can pay
Yeah.
for it.
So there's a little bit of anxiety around, leaving the country, going to Spain, this big, adventurous kind of thing. There's a little
Yeah.
bit of anxiety around being able to get the draft done in a timely fashion, around making sure that the workflow is as steady as you need it and that you're getting everything done. So you've really, there's a lot of pieces that have to come together for all of this to play out the way that you hope it plays out.
Yeah, and the other part I haven't mentioned is also that I haven't taken the holiday with no work since 2022.
Yeah, what's that like?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, even I'll need support from you because we'll have to pre-tape stuff. And so that's just
Yeah, that's not gonna happen.
yeah, fuck you.
Not bringing Carrie in.
I'm pretty comfortable with saying this is what I'm doing. I actually am.
Yeah,
I just think that you got to have some faith in yourself and in I guess I'm going to say in the cosmos or whatever, the universe, the people
yeah.
that they're going to be behind you on it, that nobody's going to go, you know what, you can't leave town. Because, of course, I'm oppositional defiant disorder. So as soon as somebody says you can't, I'm like,
Yeah,
I'm
fuck you.
doing, yeah, that's a big FU on that one. I can so.
Yeah. Oh, I know that one well. I am, you and I share that, I think, in spades. It's
Uh,
probably part of why I do what I do is because probably somebody said you can't do that. It's
I
like,
know, I
yeah,
know. And
I'm going to
and then
spend the next 30 years doing it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So there. And
Yeah.
meanwhile, they're like, who? James who?
Yeah.
You've lived your whole
Yeah,
life.
was he that gnomish guy back in high school?
The desk gnome. Okay, or the desk goblin, whatever. Okay, so there was another thing I felt was playing into my situation, which but I can't remember what it was. I guess it was around the idea of if I do have to work when I'm there, just because of I don't get my shit together enough to schedule things around it, then I'm gonna have to have pretty good boundaries around when that work takes place. I'll have to put the creative work first because my normal day is to do it the other way around. Put the
Yeah.
paid work first.
Yeah. No, I think absolutely you can do it and absolutely you can succeed. And we've talked about this project enough that I really believe in the project. I think it's a
Ah,
great,
thanks,
great
James.
idea. So yeah, no, I'm all for it. And
Thank you.
I think it's going to work out. I think there's going to be challenges and, all that kind of stuff, but that's
Yeah, you'll
normal.
be the first to hear probably.
Yeah. Well, one only hopes, right?
Yeah. Ah.
So,
So
yeah.
tell me about yours. I
That
want to
list.
know.
So mine is there's a fear element.
Well, tell me more. Like, give some context
So
first.
yeah, oh yeah. So there's a residency in Scotland that I have now applied for.
Yeah.
Um, it's 2 weeks and it goes year round, but they said if you choose the summer, you're less likely to get it. And
Yeah.
so I'm a cold weather person. So it's no problem for me to choose both January, February weeks. Perfectly okay. And basically it's 2 weeks in Scotland at a old castle writing. And this is
Nice.
different from yours because it is definitely not a guaranteed, right? So I'm
Mm,
applying for yet another residency. It's all part of our grant experiment too.
yeah.
So there's every reason to expect that it's very competitive, going to be really hard to get into. So probably, well, I don't want to sound too defeatist, but we all know how difficult it is to get into these things.
Yeah.
So There's the anxiety of will I get in, which, is normal. Then there's the anxiety of the traveling overseas, which just like you, it's not, I don't fear traveling or, I don't have a negative thing about traveling, but getting the finances in order, getting life in order,
Mhm.
people who need me to be around, are they going to be in a place where I can go?
Yeah.
Buffalo. Uh, and those kinds of things.
Yeah.
But then the bigger fear was that they do require two references.
Yeah.
And so that trigger, that social anxiety of I know people, but boy, it always feels like a huge ask. And
Yeah.
so, for full disclosure to people, you're one of the people that I asked, and of course, you were the easy yes, which was great.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other person I asked, so I'm not going to name them because, they deserve to have their privacy, but she's really wonderful. I've known her for a while. Uh, Publisher, editor, all around, writing good person. And so, but it was hard. It was really hard for me to ask.
Yeah.
And it took, and part of what made it easier was when I was filling out the application, they said, we don't want a big, huge this reference. It's more about are you, literally, it read like, we just need to know you're not crazy.
Yeah.
You're not going to show up and be a gigantic pain in the ass to everybody else who's trying to get work done.
Yeah.
And so I felt like, okay, that's pretty narrow.
Yeah.
Um, and nonetheless, when you ask somebody this, they want to do a good job. And so, it's actually bigger than that.
Yeah.
So it really, I always find it very difficult to ask anybody for a reference. And
Mm.
it pushed me to kind of, get past that fear a little bit, which was
Yeah.
nice,
Yeah.
and it worked out and she wrote a great reference and I'm very happy about it. And so in the end it was all good.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
and we'll see what happens next. But
Well,
like you,
you might be disappointed in my reference, James. Sorry, I have to mention a few things like the John
yeah.
Irving.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
God.
Anyway, let's hope.
See, this is I knew you were going to shoot me in the back on this. So
I got your back. I'm joking.
no, I know. I know.
100%
Um,
supportive.
yes. I know. We both got each other's back. We're, the Mutual Admiration Society of the Gifted Underachievers
Yeah.
universe.
Yeah.
Um, and like you, I want to be prepared for when I go. And I have a very specific project. It's one I've been working on and part of why I want to go, and part of why when we started the grant experiment, I focused so much on residencies
Yeah.
because I wanted the time and space away from my regular life and someplace else where I could really focus.
Yeah.
And so, like you, I want to make sure that if this works out, I want to be prepared.
Yeah.
And it does set a little bit of a fuse, and it does create a little bit more energy around blocking out a little bit more time to
Yeah.
get that writing done. And
That's
I
so
don't want
great.
to have it finished like you do, but I do want to have more. Uh, I want to get further along.
I
You know,
think you've made
for
so much progress with that set, that set of interlinked. We're talking about, is it okay if I say what you're
frontal,
working on?
yeah.
Yeah. So this set of interlinked short stories with a sort of almost a novella length piece in there. And I feel like you're pretty close, actually. I don't have as much information as you do about what word count you're at and everything, but I just feel like you keep finishing stuff and sending it out, and of course, they can be
Mhm.
published separately before they are put into a book. So I think that that kind of goal, where I feel like you're in better shape than I am for that, but it's pretty subjective, because
Mhm.
the idea that you're going to go with something and be ready to work on it is one of the most uncertain parts. Do you feel, or how do you feel?
Yeah, well, the concern would be that you think, okay, I've got this project, I've got this much done on it, I need to get this space, so I'm gonna just kind of give myself permission not to do as much writing or really that much writing at all until I get that opportunity, right?
Right,
So,
right.
so the-
That's the
so
risk.
yeah, so
Yeah,
like for you, like your year out, I was really curious when you mentioned that
yeah.
why you chose a year, what you
Uh-huh.
plan on doing that in between. And so everything you said makes tons of sense. and I'm in that same place where I don't want to let that become the excuse to not really, work as aggressively as I should or could or
Hmm.
want to,
Yeah.
because really it's a meaningful project. I want to get it done. I think it's got a good chance to do something. So this is about giving me a better chance to succeed and not an excuse to, I'll do it when I have time, or I'll do it when I have this, or I'll do it when I have that.
Yeah. I'll do it
But
when I get there.
yeah.
Well, I just want to I know we're out of time, but I just want to mention that when I was on I've only ever been on one residency. It was to mineral school for
Mhm.
2 weeks in Washington State. And I had a project to work on, and I went there and I had had pneumonia that year. And I was still sort of depleted. And what I realized was, although I did, like, I read and wrote probably, 8 or 9 hours a day, I was not making progress on the project exactly. I was just sort of integrating my shitty life and going, what? I'm so burnt out, like, I mean, I was really, really exhausted and I didn't realize it until I got there and I had stopped doing my life.
Mm.
So if that happens, that's not a bad thing.
No, no, that's not a bad thing. And I remember, so I went to the Wesleyan Writers retreat, not retreat, get
Festival?
festival get together. Can't
Mhm.
remember. It was like a week-long thing.
Yeah,
And it was great. And it had that element of it where you get out of your life, so it gives you that space and perspective. But just interacting with other writers
yeah,
and people who are further along in the writer's journey, who are the sort of professors or what have you
yeah,
of these courses that you took, was really phenomenal and
yeah.
energizing.
Makes a huge difference. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so I would say even though we're both going and you have a better situation in that way because you will be exposed to other writers. And
Mhm.
please don't expose yourself to them though, James. I meant to.
Well, what do you wear under the kilt? It's,
You wear tartan boxers.
yeah.
Um, yeah, so and I will be probably a little more floaty, but I think that's you've given me a great idea, which is to see if there's any readings in town, see if there's any like literary stuff happening in English, obviously, that I can understand, or even Spanish, and also to make sure I have access to the books that are going to feed my soul, because that's the way to, inspire
Yeah.
yourself sometimes is through reading. So
Yeah. Yeah, having those things that inspire you. And I think location, just a change of venue can be inspiring.
it's huge.
And because you're going to get there, you're going to get off the plane and you're like, I'm here as a writer. I am here
Yeah.
to be a writer.
And
And
so are you, like
it's a
with,
different feeling,
yeah,
right?
in the castle. I mean, it's so cool.
Yeah. And I'm gonna redo the Monty Python scene. I'm gonna climb up to the battlements and be like, "You English Canadians!" That's a dream come true right there.
Yeah, you know what? Film that if you can.
So, all right.
All
Well,
right.
in terms of support, uh, again, we need each other. Thinking broadly in the world of creatives,
Yeah.
and to get some work done. Do you feel a little bit of fear?
Yeah.
And of course, resources, capacity, and those kinds of things.
Yeah.
So,
Well
all
said.
right. All right.
Thanks for listening to Gifted Underachievers, the podcast for mid-level creatives with delusional ambitions. We'd love to know what you think. Have you ever done a DIY retreat or gone to a residency? How did it go? What were the risks? What were the rewards? And how did you feel when it was over? Well, hop on over to our website at giftedunderachievers.substack.com and let us know. Until then, have a great creative week.